Hi guys. I'm trying to post more on the internet. I'm trying to kind of like overcome my fear of the masses after some stuff that happened to me in real life. Um, and I just have always kind of felt like the internet is a place where if you're trying to talk to everyone, it's going to be a failure of communication because we need to align our words to our audience because different words mean different things to different people. Um, but I've also I guess I'm trying to be more on the internet, maybe because now I'm in the country or something, or I left my social life back in Milwaukee, and I've just always been a black sheep. Um, I've just always been somebody who contradicts everything that everybody else says. I'm always trying to like get people to think like, "Yo, you need to think about it more. Like you need to look at it from way more angles before you come to your conclusion." So, constantly critiquing other people and stuff. I love it. It's what my brain does naturally, and that crucible of like Iron Manning all sides and not straw manning any sides, but actually, or actually not Iron Man or straw man, just like being kind of stripping away your bias and just like trying to see reality for what it is, good and bad. Um, that's a powerful tool because really good ideas that can actually interact with reality really well um, are produced when you don't become married to ideas. Um, I almost regret using that because that's like a thing that like Joe Rogan made popular. Is like don't be married to your ideas or whatever. And look where he went, you know. So, but today I want to talk about politics, and I was raised by a man who is political junkie. My older brother Ryan's a political junkie. He's gotten really involved in the Milwaukee DSA chapter that I was kicked out of. Um, and I want to just say I've never ever talked bad about DSA or the Milwaukee DSA chapter except in for the one thing that happened to me, and it's pretty egregious. But I don't want to go into it because I don't. People be like, I don't know. I do love that chapter. I love that chapter. I don't even know all the people in it, but I know some of the OGs because I was there pretty early in 2016, and they're really good people and they work really hard and I mean they don't get everything right all the time. Nobody can even know what's right all the time, but yeah, they do a really good job. And my take on politics right now, these midterms got me excited. I'd be thinking that I'm done with politics, and then it's just like, oh, I get sucked right back in. Um, so I'm really excited about democratic socialism, which is like the third way between capitalism and communism that was created by the Nordic countries after World War II, and I think it is the way that the world needs to go. Um, but one of the things that I really regret often in political debates that I have with people is that there's just so much team signaling that if anybody is like if I suggest different combinations of ideas, people are like, "Oh, you're not on our team," and that has really led to a lot of alienation in my personal life. Like apologizing for the opposite side, or like just like admitting when the opposite side has a good point, or even just exploring the opposite side, because so many humans just mirror the opinions of the people around them, at least in social situations. I don't know if they actually hold those opinions dearly, but like in order to create social cohesion, and social cohesion is a really important part of human society. If you can't create a society out of iconoclasts, um, well, yeah, I don't know. Do people have to be conforming for there to be a society? I mean, on some level, yes, yes. Is it useful to have iconoclasts that forge new combinations of ideas to create new systems? Like, definitely. But here's what it is that I want to promote is that in the political discussion is that although I am very, very, very pro-choice around birth control, I think it's one of the most important issues um, period. It's just like having a planned parenthood, as in like planning parenthood and not being caught off guard by, I mean, you could get caught off guard by parenthood and decide, oh yes, I want this, and that's great, and you're ready for it. But like, yo, those first years of a human life are really important, and if the parents aren't in a really good spot, it's super important. So my whole take on abortion is like, yo, put that soul back, send it back to source, and just, wait. There's going to be another opportunity for that soul to manifest in this world. So um yeah, although I'm super pro-choice, I know that it's a very deeply held position by a bunch on the conservative side, and actually a bunch on the left too. There's just like Christians on blue and red team, Dems and Republicans. They both, they're diverse groups, but we all know that pro-life, anti-abortion, anti-choice, um, is much more overrepresented on the Republican side. And Tucker Carlson, who I've tuned into some, it's like opposition research and stuff, and but Tucker, and I don't know about like the meta strategies that the ruling class. I try and figure out like, oh, what's all the trickery and blah blah blah, what's actually going on. But like, let's just take Tucker at like face value with the turn he's made against Trump, against mainstream media, against the war in general, and he's stuck on certain conservative talking points. He's much more in the camp of like well, not in the camp, but closer to the camp of like Elizabeth Warren or Ro Khanna, who talk this saving capitalism. I think Tucker can get on board with some of that like anti-monopoly stuff, and he's definitely pro-peace. And what I would just love, love, love to see is a movement within the Republican Party that is similar to the socialist movement that's happening in the Democratic Party. And they're not, the thing about United States democratic socialism is it's not really democratic socialism. It's really more like social democracy is what they would call it um, in Europe. And it's much more of like a third way. It's not communism. And although you will find tankies and stuff and Leninists who are mostly trying to be edgy, I think, inside of well, I don't want to insult people. They're smart people with their own ideas that they got for their own reasons. Um, Inside DSA, there's Leninists and communists, but I think that most of them are more like social democrats who want to make what we consider to be big changes to capitalism, but it's really mostly keeps the free market in place and just puts in more guidelines to make sure that people don't get too wealthy and people don't get too poor. It kind of squeezes everything like this so that like we can all just be family together and not be so separated, and so that more people can have power so that we can make better decisions as a group. It's not about eliminating class or eliminating the ability for somebody who's ambitious to make capital. And you'll hear Ro Khanna talk about this, and I think you'll hear Elizabeth Warren talk about this, and you'll hear lots of right-wing people talk about this. A lot of right-wing people talk about a very healthy form of capitalism. A lot of right-wing voters talk about a very healthy form of capitalism. Whether or not they understand political science and the economy, I don't even want to say economics, but the economy well enough to really know what the good policies are to create a good capitalism, because we know Republican voters are less educated than Democratic voters. And I don't say that as an insult, it's just a truth. But in their head, I think what they want is like a fair capitalism, And so I do think there's like real space on the right for a pro-life sort of saving capitalism, like an Elizabeth Warren or Ro Khanna type political movement, but that because it's pro-life, it would end up being Republicans. And then if we can get the pro-life Republicans in Congress that are basically democratic socialists, because they want, a good capitalism, which is what democratic socialists mostly want, There are a bunch that think they want communism, and depending on what they mean by communism, this is this problem with words, is they mean different things to different people, and then we assume we know what the other person's saying, and we don't always know. And then it can all just get twisted by media and stuff. So we really gotta, when we're using words to talk to each other, uh, getting good at individual language and kind of recognizing that, like, just because we're both talking English doesn't mean we don't still need to translate. We do. We do. Because we're in our own little echo chamber bubbles so much that the way that, and we don't look up the words ourselves, and then even if we did look up the words, many of us are not disciplined about using them the way that they actually mean. And then, well, but then the meaning of words are changing all the time. So who can really keep up, look up every word? No. Everybody's going to use context clues to figure out what each other means or what they think each other means, and different echo chambers are going to create different meanings for different words. And then you have people fighting who actually might be agreeing on underlying ideas, but they're fighting because they're using words differently. But they think they know how each other is using the words. So, but what we could do is we could get a Republican. They wouldn't call themselves socialists. They'd probably call them like working families Republicans or something. Or like middle class Republicans or something. And they would be, and the main thing is they would have to take no PAC money, because we've got a big movement on the left now, or a fair sized movement of political movement of people who are not taking PAC money and who want to overthrow Citizens United. So that's what we need on the right. We need pro-worker policies on the right. We need a new right-wing party that is only right-wing for basically one reason. Well, yeah, basically one reason, which is they'd be right-wing because they're pro-life. And honestly, I think it would be amazing if the left could swallow one issue. I know it's a huge issue. I'm not a woman, but it's a huge issue for me, just how my brain has thought about like all of the systems in the world, and just about human freedom and the kind of world that I want to live in, where humans are brought into the world by parents who are totally ready and loving and just, want to be parents and are ready to be parents and have a healthy foundation, and not parents who aren't sure that they want to be a parent, and then next thing you know, they're a parent, and that kid has a parent who is not ready. And that's like lifelong damage. And then we know hurt people, so it's like, it just like causes too much pain. And so if we're trying to alleviate unnecessary suffering, I do think that abortions are a pathway to alleviate a lot of suffering. And that's to talk about the child, not even to talk about the mother's life and her agency to live her life however she wants. And if she doesn't want to ever have kids, she doesn't have to. So it does pain me to say this, but I think I can swallow one issue if they have all the economic stuff in place. Because if you actually think about it, if you fix all the economic stuff, then having a child unplanned is a lot less like stressful. So, and you do see this with Tucker Carlson. They are talking about how if you're conservative and you're pro-life, how can you be so, terrible to workers? Because how are those parents going to raise good children if they're under the freaking screw of the company and the bosses, and they can't make ends meet, and they don't have health care, and they don't have child leave, and they don't have sick days, and they don't have, and both parents have to work, and they don't have any time to love their kid. Like, so there are people on the right who are starting to make this argument. The problem is that many of them are still taking the PAC money. So you can't trust them because they say things on the campaign trail, but then they don't do them when they're in office. And you can never trust any politician, I don't think. I'm remiss to say never. You should watch closely. They probably won't actually support the bills and that are going to make working families have a better time. They're going to oftentimes also, the right will argue that like Reaganomics trickle down. It's just ridiculous that they think that's gonna help the workers. We need direct money in the workers' pockets in the form of Medicare for all, higher wages, $30 minimum wage. $30 minimum wage. If you're a business owner and you're not paying people $30 an hour, shame. Big shame. Big shame. So I'm really excited to see. I'm really excited to see people. Um, you know, on the right. Hopefully, I would love to see a movement of folks who are adamantly against Citizens United, will not take billionaire money or corporate money, small dollar donations only, all sources disclosed, no dark money in their campaigns, right? Um, I want to see Republican candidates doing that, and honestly, like I've been watching. So I'm from Wisconsin, and I just voted for Francesca Hong in the primary, and I was so excited. I thought she was going to win. A lot of us did, and she came this freaking close, as a Democratic Socialist in Wisconsin, the birthplace of American socialism, which is really cool. Um, and actually, like sewer socialism in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is very much Mamdani. Like Mamdani is very much like municipal socialism. Yeah, yeah, good. Just focus on utilities, infrastructure, make people's lives better in real physical ways. Just like awesome stuff that people appreciate. Um. So yeah, I would like to see people on the right who are willing to tax billionaires to make families richer so that they can provide for their children, because that's a Christian value. So, and even though I've been reading the Bible a lot along with the other ancient texts, I don't consider myself a Christian druid. I'm a pagan druid at this point, or a polytheistic druid, or I might even be like a sci-fi druid. I'm not. I'm still discovering my religion and my spirituality and my faith. But it would be dope to see some Republicans say tax the rich. I like that Tucker Carlson's saying end the wars, Trump sucks, these policies are bad for families. How can we be pro-life if we're hurting families economically like this and getting into immoral wars for money and greed? So I don't agree with Tucker on everything, because I'm super super pro-choice. It's very important. But if at this point I've been listening to Crowley, who's the black guy from Milwaukee who beat the Asian woman Hong, who's from Madison in Wisconsin, for governor. So now Crowley is running for governor against the Republicans. And I'm just like watching Crowley, and he's so pro corporation, so pro data center. It's just like, whoa, I don't think I can vote for him. I don't think I can vote for him. And if the Republicans had put up a candidate who didn't take PAC money, who wanted to tax the rich, put a moratorium on data centers, and raise the minimum wage to like $30 an hour, and do Badger Care for All in the state of Wisconsin, but they happen to be pro-life, I would vote for that person over David Crowley. I'm not pro-life. I mean, I'm pro-life. I'm not pro. Uh, I'm not anti-abortion the way that they are. Um, So, but I would vote for an anti-abortion candidate in Wisconsin, if they gave me, and a Republican. I don't care what somebody, like, who cares? Like, I don't like the Democrats, but I'm gonna vote for Bernie if he's a Democrat. I'm gonna vote for Fran if she's a Democrat. Like, the Democratic Party is not like the party I love. I don't agree with everything they do, but just because somebody calls themselves a Democrat doesn't mean they have to subscribe, or is running as a Democrat doesn't mean they have to subscribe to everything that the Democratic Party does. So same thing with a Republican. I've never voted for a Republican in my life, but I totally would if they were against an AI data center. Pro, getting rid of the data centers, raising the minimum wage, Medicare for all, or Badger Care for All. Um, yeah, I would, and no corporate PAC money. They can't take corporate PAC money. They just can't. No dark money. I need to see every single contribution to your campaign, so I know who that politician is beholden to. I will. Yeah. Anyways, that's it. This video is too long already.